Since the announcement of All Elite Wrestling in 2019, the promotion has become a beacon for professional wrestling talent from all around the world to come and compete for one of the newest and most valuable prizes in all of wrestling, the All Elite Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. So, isn't it just a little bit ironic that 3 out of the 5 champions are former WWE guys? And the guy with the most reigns is also a WWE guy? And the 2 people who were in the finals of the latest AEW title tournament were also both WWE guys? I mean, I really don't care. I'm just saying there's some irony here. Since being created in mid-2019, the AEW Heavyweight Championship has seen 5 championship holders, a lot of great moments, and the occasional misstep. Despite this, the title has always held an appropriate level of prestige since its inception, as the belt was unveiled by none other than the Hall of Famer Bret Hart, and since that day, wrestlers from all corners of AEW's roster have stepped up to challenge for the belt. With Full Gear coming up in a few weeks and the Devil himself, MJF, potentially capturing his very first AEW Heavyweight Championship, I thought it would be fun to go back and rank all of the past champions from the belt's history. Keep in mind this is just my own personal opinion, and I'm just going to go off what I enjoyed the most and what I found the most entertaining. Also, I know Punk has technically held the belt twice and Jon Moxley has held the belt 3 times, but I'm just going to do an overview of all of their reigns instead of splitting them up into different parts. Make sense? There's only 5 entries here on this list for 5 champions, so that's how we're doing it. Speaking of former champions, let's kick things off on this list with CM Punk. CM Punk is the worst AEW champion of all time. Could he have been a good champion? Even a great champion? At this point, I'm not sure. CM Punk was the 4th AEW champion overall, and it's clear that the company had big plans for Punk when he defeated Adam Hangman Page at Double or Nothing for the black and gold strap. However, a fight with the Barricade left CM Punk with a broken foot, meaning he had to take time off. In that time, Jon Moxley would be crowned the interim AEW champion, and upon returning, CM Punk would then lose the title to Jon Moxley in a unification match, before then winning the belt back from Jon Moxley at All Out, before Punk then proceeded to verbally bitch-slap Colt Cabana, Adam Page, the Elite, and Colt Cabana's mother at the end of an AEW media scrum, leading to a legit fight between CM Punk and the Elite breaking out, leading to CM Punk finally being stripped of the title. As you can see, CM Punk's time as AEW champion wasn't just confusing, but due to the amount of time he spent as champion, or lack thereof, it didn't amount to much of an impact. Congrats on changing the culture, you jackass. Even if CM Punk wasn't stripped of the title following the media scrum, by the end of his run with AEW, he'd proven to be injury prone, as he had a foot injury that he picked up from his first title run, and then he also suffered from a torn tricep from his all-out match with Jon Moxley. Plus, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Logan Paul does a better buckshot lariat than CM Punk does. 2022 has been a really weird year for wrestling, guys. Finally, the few matches that Punk did have for the belt with Hangman Page and Jon Moxley, they were fine, but they weren't his best work in AEW. I'd still say that honor goes with stuff with MJF and then his really short but really good feud with Eddie Kingston. This feud in particular is really good, and it serves for some pretty scarily accurate foreshadowing to how perception of Punk in AEW would change as time went on.
Nobody wants you here, they never wanted you here. That whole locker room's afraid to say it, not me. So get out!
Whether you want to blame it on time, match quality, injuries, or the fact that his best moment as champion was at a press conference, it's hard to argue against the fact that CM Punk is the worst AEW champion in the belt's short history. But let's look at how this history all started as we take a look at number 4 on this list, Chris Jericho. It's easy to forget that in 2019, when AEW was first introduced to the world, the biggest star in the company was Chris Jericho. Yeah, the roster did have people like Cody Rhodes and Pac, who had been familiar faces from WWE, and Kenny Omega, who people had heard of, but Chris Jericho was the former WWE guy that they had, a guy who we thought would never leave Vince's company. There was a former undisputed WWE champion now running around with the Elite, and it became clear that he was going to be a big deal in this small promotion. First winning the belt at All Out 2019 against Adam Hangman Page, Chris would then go on to have feuds with some of the most promising prospects of the young company like Darby Allin and Scorpio Sky, before moving on to some higher level feuds against Cody Rhodes and Jon Moxley, who he would eventually drop the title to. Overall, this run as champion is pretty good, and it features Chris Jericho at his catchphrase best, tossing out phrases like a little bit of the bubbly when he first won the title, and even bringing back the list of Jericho but renaming it the Lexicon of Le Champion. The only thing that keeps Jericho lower on this list is that in terms of work rate, Chris Jericho was getting up there in age, so he would slow down at this point in his career. Despite this, Chris really elevated the drama and storytelling in his feuds, especially with Cody Rhodes. Overall, Chris did exactly what he had to do with his first title run, and that is helping the new company gain credibility by attaching a well-known name to its top prize. The matches here aren't the best by any means, but the storytelling here is top-notch, and everyone working with Chris Jericho at this time certainly benefited from it. Speaking of someone who worked with Chris at this time, let's talk about the number 3 AEW champion of all time, Hangman Adam Page. This is the guy that I really want to put at the top of my list because I think that Hangman Adam Page is an amazing wrestler. He's able to combine the high work rate style of today with the brawler style of the late 90s while also being able to tell stories that have a lot of emotion in a really subtle way. Hangman Page is just awesome. First winning the title at Full Gear 2021 against Kenny Omega, this match and title change can almost be seen as the end of Season 1 of AEW, as the Kenny and Hangman story was built up for the first few years of the company's existence, and it's truly an excellent story with some really great payoff. From there, Hangman Page would go on to feud with Bryan Danielson, where they would first go to a 60-minute draw before a rematch would then take place where the Cowboy beat Bryan decisively. From there, he would then have matches with Lance Archer, Dante Martin, and a feud with Adam Cole before he would drop the belt to CM Punk. Unfortunately for Adam Page, it's always a bad sign when the best moment of your reign is the same moment where you won the belt. At this time, there was a noticeable shift in AEW, and as more stars entered the company, the focus shifted to them as opposed to the champion, meaning that we have a lot of shows where the champion is out at the beginning of the show or in the middle of the show instead of being promoted in the main event like a champion should. Hangman's match with Bryan was great, and it's always going to be impressive when two people can wrestle and go at it for an hour. However, timing really betrayed these two, as the way this match ended was pretty much identical to the ending between Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson just a few months before this match. Let's also not pretend that Lance Archer was a credible threat to Hangman, and he was not really relevant in the slightest at this point. And while Page's feud with Adam Cole had potential, it was endless and it just kept going on. Despite all of this, it's clear that AEW sees a lot of potential in Adam Hangman Page, and while he's out injured right now, I have to think that once he comes back, these next few years are going to be really kind to the Hangman, and we're going to see him become a multiple-time champion. Speaking of multiple-time champions, let's talk about number 2 on our list, Jon Moxley. Without a doubt, at this point, Jon Moxley is the heart and soul of All Elite Wrestling. Whenever the company has faced any sort of issues or setbacks, primarily caused by CM Punk, they just throw the belt back on Jon Moxley and things get better. Moxley's first run with the belt started when he beat Chris Jericho at Revolution 2020, and from there Moxley went on a workhorse run where he would fight anyone who stepped up. This included Jake Hager, Brody Lee, Brian Cage, Darby Allin, MJF, Eddie Kingston, The Butcher, Lance Archer, before he finally dropped the belt to Kenny Omega. Eventually, the title would make its way back to Jon Moxley when he beat Hiroshi Tanahashi at Forbidden Door to become the interim World Heavyweight Champion. From here, he then beat CM Punk to become the undisputed heavyweight champion before he then lost the belt to CM Punk a few weeks later. Then, when the belt was stripped off of Punk, Jon Moxley would make it to the finals of a tournament where he would then beat Bryan Danielson to finally become a 3-time All Elite Wrestling heavyweight champion. Confusing, I know, but blame CM Punk, not me. Jon ranks so high on this list for a couple of reasons. Obviously, he's held the belt more than anyone at this point, so that gives him big points right off the bat. Aside from that, he is having some of the best matches of his career, and he's not only facing older and more established people like your CM Punks or your Bryan Danielsons or even your Hangman Pages, but he's also facing the younger guys and making them someone that the crowd can sort of look to as potential stars. Finally, the work him and MJF are doing right now is some of the best from either man's career, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how Full Gear is going to play out this year. Plus, we can't forget the infamous way that he completely dominated CM Punk, beating him in just under 2 minutes. This guy just has too many iconic moments, and if he is your favorite champion, I'd get it, I really would, but for my money, I have to go with one of my favorites currently doing it today. Number 1 goes to the best bout machine, Kenny Omega. Kenny's reign is just really fun. I mean, the story between Kenny and Hangman Page during this reign is peak AEW, and if you disagree, I don't even know what to tell you. Kenny won the belt against Jon Moxley at AEW's Winter is Coming show, where he would cheat to win by hitting Moxley in the head with the microphone. From there, he would face Jon Moxley in an exploding barbed wire death match, which the less said about that, the better. And then he would go on to have successful defenses against Rey Fenix, Jungle Boy, Christian Cage, Orange Cassidy, Pac, and then he would also have that match with Bryan Danielson. If you haven't watched that match, I don't know what to tell you, just go watch it, it's pretty good. And then finally he would drop the belt to Hangman Page in one of the best moments in AEW history. This reign is great for so many reasons. Among those is the fact that this reign didn't just involve AEW, It involved a bunch of other wrestling promotions like Impact and AAA. As Kenny became the belt collector, he pretty much just went into different wrestling companies and won their main belts like a wrestling Thanos. It was absolutely savage. And I know Kenny's wrestling style is very divisive. It's not for everyone, but I love it. And whenever he wrestles, I'm watching because I know it's going to be a fun and chaotic time. So, while this belt has only been around for a few years and has had a lot of great moments, I'd argue that the absolute best moments that the title had was when it was around the waist of Kenny Omega. But what do you guys think? How would you rank the AEW Heavyweight Champions? And do you think MJF is going to join this list and beat Jon Moxley at Full Gear? Sound off in the comments below. That's all I have for you guys today. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you liked what you saw. Also, be sure to check out some of my other content. I got a few more wrestling stuff on the channel, a few other things that you guys might be interested in. So as always, take care.